The peaceful delegation, the message arrived on a Tuesday morning, transmitted across impossible distances through quantum channels that Earth's scientists barely understood. It was beautiful in its simplicity, elegant in its construction, and terrifying in its implications. Humanity was no longer alone. The transmission originated from the Catherian Empire, a civilization that controlled 17 star systems in the outer spiral arm. Their message was diplomatic, refined, and spoke of peaceful intentions. They had observed Earth's rapid technological advancement and wished to establish formal relations. A meeting was proposed at the neutral coordinates they provided, a dead system between their territory and Earth's solar frontier. In the gleaming towers of Geneva, the United Earth Council convened an emergency session. President Elena Vasquez stood before the assembly, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. The chamber buzzed with excitement and nervous energy as representatives from every nation debated humanity's response. "This is our moment," declared Dr. James Wright, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "We've dreamed of this day for centuries. We must respond with wisdom and hope." The decision was unanimous. Earth would send a peaceful delegation aboard the civilian vessel Harmony, a state-of-the-art diplomatic ship designed for exactly this purpose. The ship gleamed white and silver, its hull decorated with symbols of peace from every Earth culture. No weapons adorned its frame, no military insignia marked its purpose. It was meant to represent humanity at its most noble dot. Captain Sarah Chen accepted command of the mission with both pride and trepidation. A veteran of deep space exploration, she had spent her career pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Now she would push the boundaries of human contact. Her crew consisted of Earth's finest diplomats, scientists, linguists, and cultural experts. Ambassador David Rodriguez would lead the negotiations, his decades of experience in international diplomacy serving as humanity's voice. Dr. Lisa Park, a brilliant xenopsychologist, would attempt to understand alien thinking patterns. The ship's AI, designated ADM, contained every piece of human knowledge, art, music, and literature, ready to share humanity's cultural treasures. As Harmony departed Earth's orbital stations, millions watched the live stream with bated breath. Children pressed their faces against windows. Elderly couples held hands in wonder, and world leaders offered prayers for success. This was humanity's debut on the galactic stage. The journey took 3 weeks through hyperspace, each jump bringing them closer to first contact. The crew used the time to prepare extensively, studying every aspect of Catherian culture they could glean from the transmission. They practiced greeting protocols, prepared cultural exchange gifts, and rehearsed diplomatic procedures until they could perform them flawlessly. Captain Chen stood on the bridge as they approached the meeting coordinates, watching the stars wheel slowly past the view. The system was indeed dead, containing only a few barren planets orbiting a dim red dwarf. It seemed an odd choice for such a momentous meeting, but she assumed the Cathari preferred neutral ground. Unknown to Chen and her crew, other preparations had been made. Deep in the military complexes of Luna and Mars, Admiral Marcus Stone monitored every aspect of the mission. A grizzled veteran of humanity's wars, Stone trusted aliens about as much as he trusted plasma grenades. His weathered face bore scars from conflicts across the solar system, and his eyes held the hard wisdom of someone who had seen too much death. "Sir, Harmony has reached the rendezvous point," reported his aide, Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos. Stone nodded grimly. "And our special guest, Leviathan, maintains position at the edge of the system, fully cloaked and ready. The Admiral's jaw tightened. Leviathan was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a dreadnought so advanced that its existence was known only to a select few. Built in the hidden shipyards of the asteroid belt, it represented 20 years of military innovation and paranoid preparation. Stone prayed they would never need it, but he hadn't survived this long by trusting alien promises. Aboard Harmony, the moment of first contact arrived with startling suddenness. Long-range sensors detected the approaching Catherian vessel, and the crew gathered on the bridge with barely contained excitement. The alien ship was beautiful in an otherworldly way, its crystalline hull refracting starlight into rainbow patterns. It was larger than Harmony, but seemed designed for elegance rather than aggression. Incoming transmission, announced Communications Officer Yang. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the first alien face humanity had ever seen. High Counselor Zethkar was tall and graceful, with blue-green skin and large, intelligent eyes. When he spoke, his voice was melodious and measured. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am honored to represent the Catherian Empire in this historic moment. We welcome you to the galactic community." Ambassador Rodriguez stepped forward, his diplomatic training taking over despite his racing heart. "High Counselor, on behalf of all humanity, we thank you for this opportunity. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to learn from your wisdom and share our own knowledge." The initial exchanges proceeded smoothly. Cultural gifts were exchanged. Through careful airlock procedures, the Cathari presented beautiful crystal sculptures that seemed to sing with harmonic frequencies. Humanity offered works of art, music recordings, and samples of Earth's literature translated into mathematical concepts. For 2 hours, the meeting proceeded exactly as Earth had hoped. Scientists exchanged data on stellar phenomena. Historians shared stories of their civilization's development, and philosophers discussed the nature of consciousness and existence. It seemed that the dream of peaceful first contact was becoming reality. Then High Counselor Zethkar's demeanor changed subtly. His melodious voice acquired a harder edge, and his large eyes grew cold. "Now we must discuss more practical matters," he announced. "The Catherian Empire maintains order across this sector of the galaxy. Your species shows promise, but you are young and inexperienced in galactic affairs. You require guidance." Ambassador Rodriguez felt a chill of apprehension. "What kind of guidance do you mean, High Counselor?" "Earth will become a tributary world under Catherian protection. You will provide raw materials, manufactured goods, and technological innovations to the Empire. In return, we will ensure your safety from the more aggressive species that inhabit this region of space." The Bridge of Harmony fell silent. This wasn't an offer of friendship or alliance. It was a demand for subjugation dressed in diplomatic language. "I'm afraid that's not acceptable," Rodriguez replied carefully. "Humanity values its independence. We would prefer a relationship of equals, based on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation." Zethkar's expression grew colder still. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is an explanation of how things will be." Captain Chen stepped forward, her hand moving instinctively toward the emergency alert button. "High Counselor, if you're threatening us, we should end this meeting now." "Threatening?" Zethkar laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "No, Captain Chen, explaining." The space around Harmony suddenly filled with light as massive ships decloaked. 12 Catherian battlecruisers materialized in a perfect sphere around the human vessel, their hulls bristling with weapon emplacements. Each ship was 3 times the size of Harmony, their crystalline armor gleaming with deadly beauty. "You see," Zethkar continued calmly, "your species has no choice in this matter. Surrender now, and your world will be treated with relative kindness. Resist, and Earth will burn." Dr. Park stared at the tactical display in horror. The peaceful first contact scenario had become a nightmare of deception and intimidation. The aliens had never intended to treat humanity as equals. They had lured Earth's representatives into a trap, using humanity's hopes and dreams against them. "You planned this from the beginning," Captain Chen said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "Of course, we have done this 17 times before, with 17 different species. Your reaction is quite typical, actually." Initial shock followed by protests, then grudging acceptance of reality. Ambassador Rodriguez drew himself up to his full height, dignity intact despite the circumstances. "You underestimate humanity if you think we'll submit to slavery." "Slavery is such an ugly word," Zethkar replied. "Think of it as guided evolution. Your species will develop under our direction, becoming useful contributors to galactic civilization." The Catherian battlecruisers began closing their formation, weapon systems powering up with ominous energy signatures. Harmony's sensors screamed warnings as targeting lasers painted her hull. The diplomatic vessel had no shields, no weapons, no way to fight or flee. Captain Chen activated the emergency beacon, sending a desperate message toward Earth. Even if they died here, humanity would at least know the truth about their visitors. "Broadcast this on all frequencies," she ordered her communications officer. "Let every human know what really happened here." But before the transmission could complete, something impossible occurred. The long-range sensors detected a massive hyperspace signature approaching the system. Something was coming. Something. Huge Zethkar frowned as his own sensors registered the anomaly. "What is that energy signature?" The answer came in the form of a ship emerging from hyperspace like a titan awakening from dreams. It was vast beyond belief, dwarfing even the largest Catherian battlecruiser. Its hull was midnight black, absorbing light rather than reflecting. It, covered in angular armor plates that suggested both incredible strength and lethal purpose. "Unknown vessel," transmitted the lead Catherian commander. "Identify yourself immediately." The response came in perfect Catherian, transmitted with cold precision. "This is the Earth Defense Force, Dreadnought, Leviathan. You have exactly 60 seconds to release the human diplomatic vessel and withdraw from this system." Aboard Harmony, Captain Chen stared at the massive warship in stunned disbelief. She had never heard of any vessel called Leviathan, had never seen anything like its brutal, purposeful design. Where had it come from? How had Earth built something so enormous without anyone knowing? High Counselor Zethkar's composure finally cracked. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicated that Earth possessed no military vessels of significant capability." "Your intelligence," came the cold reply from Leviathan, "was deliberately provided." 30 seconds remaining. Asterisk, the Leviathan awakens the bridge of... Leviathan was a study in controlled violence, every surface designed for war. Captain Rebecca Kane stood at the center of the command deck, her scarred hands resting on the tactical console. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt, crushed corporate rebellions on Mars, and led boarding actions against hostile stations. But this was different. This was humanity's first interstellar war, and she intended it to be very brief. "Status." "Report," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to instant obedience. "All weapons systems online and fully charged. reported Weapons Officer Commander Blake Torres. Kinetic batteries loaded with depleted uranium rounds. Particle beam arrays at full power. Nuclear warheads armed and ready. Shields at maximum strength. Added Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Rachel Kim. Fusion reactors operating at 98% efficiency. All systems nominal. Kane nodded with grim satisfaction. Leviathan was the culmination of humanity's military engineering, built in secret over 2 decades by the most brilliant minds Earth could produce. Every lesson learned from centuries of human warfare had been incorporated into her design. She was fast, heavily armed, and virtually indestructible. 15 seconds, announced the timer, through the viewports. The Catherian battlecruisers maintained their threatening formation around Harmony. Kane could see their weapon systems charging, preparing to destroy the helpless diplomatic vessel. The aliens had made their choice. Time expired, Kane announced calmly. Open fire. Leviathan's response was immediate and devastating. 16 heavy particle beam turrets swiveled toward their targets and fired simultaneously. Brilliant lances of coherent energy crossed the void at light speed, each beam carrying enough power to level a city. The first 4 Catherian ships simply vanished, their crystalline hulls vaporized in milliseconds. The remaining alien vessels scattered, abandoning their formation as they desperately tried to bring their own weapons to bear. But Leviathan had been designed to fight multiple opponents simultaneously. Point defense lasers tracked incoming missiles and destroyed them before they could arm. Kinetic projectiles, launched at a significant fraction of light speed, punched through crystalline armor like paper. Enemy vessels attempting to target our weak points, reported Torres. Predictable attack patterns. They're used to fighting primitives. Kane allowed herself a thin smile. Show them what human warfare looks like. Leviathan rolled on her axis with surprising grace for such a massive vessel. Her ventral weapons arrays came to bear on a cluster of Catherian cruisers, unleashing a barrage of nuclear-tipped torpedoes. The warheads were small by human standards, but their antimatter triggers created fusion reactions that lit space like newborn stars. 3 more alien ships died in the nuclear fire, their hulls cracking, under forces they had never been designed to withstand. The surviving Cathari finally began returning fire, their energy weapons creating beautiful but futile light shows against Leviathan's adaptive shielding. Damage report, Kane requested. Shields down to 97%, Kim replied. Minor fluctuations in the starboard generator. Nothing significant. The one-sided battle continued for exactly 7 minutes. When it ended, 11 Catherian battlecruisers had been reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma. Only the flagship remained, its weapons disabled and life support failing. Captain Kane opened a channel to the surviving vessel. "Hi, Counselor Zethkar. I presume you're still alive in there. This is your only warning. Take your ship and leave this system immediately. Spread word throughout the galaxy that Earth is under our protection, and any attempt at aggression will be met with overwhelming force." The response came weak and broken. This is impossible. How did your species develop such technology so quickly? Kane's voice carried the cold finality of absolute victory. We've been preparing for this day since we first looked up at the stars. Humanity doesn't surrender, High Counselor. We fight, and we win. Through the viewports of Harmony, Captain Chen watched the alien flagship limp away at best possible speed. Its crystalline hull scarred and blackened. The diplomatic vessel was safe, but the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity's peaceful debut had become a demonstration of military might that would echo across civilized space. Admiral Stone's voice crackled through the communication system. "Well done, Captain Kane. Bring our people home." As Leviathan began powering down from battle stations, the enormity of what had just occurred began to sink in. First contact had not gone as planned, but perhaps it had gone as it needed to. The galaxy now knew that humanity was not a species to be trifled with. Aboard Harmony, Dr. Park was already analyzing the cultural implications. "This changes everything. Word of what happened here will spread. Other species will approach us with respect rather than arrogance." Ambassador Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps this was the only way it could have happened. Predators only understand strength. Captain Chen studied the tactical readouts from Leviathan's brief but decisive battle. How long has Earth been preparing for something like this? Since the day we first detected artificial signals from deep space, came Admiral Stone's reply. "We've been building, training, and preparing for the possibility that first contact might not be friendly. Leviathan is just the first of 12 dreadnoughts currently under construction." The return journey to Earth was triumphant rather than diplomatic. News of humanity's victory spread ahead of them through quantum communications. By the time Harmony reached Sol System, parades were being planned and military recruitment offices were overwhelmed with volunteers. But the most significant change was in the messages arriving from across the galaxy. Species that had previously ignored Earth's existence suddenly wanted to establish diplomatic relations. The Altarian Republic offered trade agreements on favorable terms. The Nexus Collective invited human observers to their ruling council. Even the ancient builders, mysterious architects of the galaxy's oldest structures, sent a message of greeting and respect. High Counselor Zethkar's flagship reached Catherian space 3 weeks later, bearing news that would shatter his empires. Confidence. The species they had intended to subjugate possessed military technology that surpassed their own by centuries. The simple tributary raid had become a catastrophic defeat that exposed Catherian weakness to the entire galaxy. Within months, the Catherian Empire faced rebellions on 7 worlds as subjected species realized their oppressors were not invincible. The balance of power in the outer spiral arm shifted dramatically as humanity's unexpected strength created new possibilities for freedom and independence. On Earth, President Vasquez addressed the United Nations in a speech that would be remembered for generations. "We reached for the stars with open hands, hoping to find friends among the cosmos. Instead, we found those who would make us slaves. But we have shown the galaxy that humanity will never bow to tyranny. We are not conquerors, but we are not victims either. Let all who would deal with Earth understand this. We offer friendship to those who come in peace, and destruction too. Those who come in war." Captain Rebecca Kane received the Medal of Valor, the first ever awarded for interstellar combat. But she took more pride in a different honor: a handwritten letter from a child on lunar colony, thanking her for keeping Earth free. The letter read, "Dear Captain Kane, my teacher says you saved us from the mean aliens. I want to be like you. When I grow up and protect people too, thank you for being brave." Kane kept that letter in her quarters aboard Leviathan as the great ship patrolled the borders of human space. Other species now approached those borders with respect rather than aggression, and humanity's place in the galactic community was secure. The stars still called to humanity, but now they answered with strength rather than hope alone. First contact had not brought the peace Earth had dreamed of, But it had brought something perhaps more valuable: the respect of the galaxy and the knowledge that humanity would never again face the darkness alone in the depths of space. Leviathan and her sister ships stood eternal watch, guardians of human freedom and guarantors of humanity's right to reach for the stars. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The underestimation commander, Zixtor, stood before the massive viewing portal of the assessment facility, his 4 arms clasped behind his back as he observed the starfield beyond. The Nexa Empire had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 3,000 years, and in that time they had encountered and catalogued hundreds of species. Most submitted peacefully after witnessing Nexa military might. Those that resisted were quickly subdued and integrated into the Empire as labor forces or auxiliary troops. The facility hummed with activity as technicians prepared for the arrival of their newest subjects. Intelligence reports indicated that a small human patrol had been captured during a routine border skirmish near the Kepler system. The species called themselves humans and originated from a planet they named Earth. Initial scans suggested they were remarkably unremarkable. Dr. Velanara approached the commander, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the light from the nearby star. As the Empire's leading xenobiologist, she had studied countless species and prided herself on her ability to quickly assess any civilization's potential threat level and integration possibilities. "Commander," she said, her voice carrying the musical tones typical of her species, "the human specimens have arrived. 3 individuals, all appearing to be military personnel based on their attire and bearing." Zixtal turned his attention to the doctor. His species, the Nexa, were imposing creatures standing nearly 3 meters tall with 4 powerful arms and skin that resembled polished obsidian. They had evolved on a high-gravity world where strength and resilience were paramount for survival. "What are your initial observations?" he asked, fascinating in their ordinariness. Dr. Velanara replied, consulting her datapad. "They are bipedal, as expected from most sentient species. Average height of approximately 1.8 meters, significantly smaller than our own kind. They possess only 2 arms, which suggests limited multitasking capabilities. Their bone density is remarkably low, indicating they evolved on a light gravity world." The commander nodded thoughtfully. "And their technology? Primitive at best. They still rely on chemical propulsion for space travel and kinetic weapons for warfare. Their computational systems are electronic rather than bioneural, suggesting they have not yet achieved true artificial intelligence integration." A technician approached, his movements quick and efficient. "Commander, the prisoners are ready for interrogation. They have been placed in separate holding cells, as per standard protocol." Zixtal gestured for Dr. Velanara to accompany him to the observation deck overlooking the detention area. Through reinforced transparent barriers, they could see the 3 humans in their individual cells. The sight was almost disappointing. The first human was a woman with short, dark hair and what appeared to be military insignia on her uniform. She sat calmly on the simple bench provided, her hands folded in her lap. Her breathing was steady, and she showed no signs of distress, despite her situation. The second was a man with slightly graying hair and calloused hands that suggested he worked with machinery. He was examining the walls of his cell with careful attention, running his fingers along the surfaces as if testing their composition. The third was younger, perhaps barely past adolescence by human standards. He sat with his back against the wall, eyes closed, but his posture suggested he was not sleeping but rather listening intently to his surroundings. They do not appear distressed by their capture, Dr. Velanara observed. Most species display significant anxiety when first detained. These humans seem almost ... prepared. Commander Zixtel activated the communication system. I am Commander Zixtel of the Nexa Empire. You are now prisoners of the Galactic Assessment Division. You will be studied, catalogued, and your species evaluated for integration into our empire. Cooperation will be rewarded. Resistance will be punished. The woman looked up directly at the observation window, though the barrier was designed to be one. Her gaze seemed to pierce through the barrier and meet the commander's eyes directly. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, she said, her voice clear and unwavering. These are Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez and Ensign David Kim. We are prisoners of war and demand to be treated according to the Geneva Conventions. Dr. Velanara looked puzzled. Geneva Conventions? I am not familiar with this term. It appears to be some form of legal framework they believe applies to their situation, Zixtel replied. Curious that they would invoke laws that have no meaning, beyond their own world. The interrogation began an hour later. Captain Chen was brought to a stark white room where Commander Zixtel and Dr. Velanara waited. The human showed no fear as she entered, instead taking note of every detail of the room and her captors. You are far from home, Captain Chen, Zixtel began. Your vessel was detected in restricted space. Why were you there? Routine patrol, she replied simply. The space you claim as restricted was designated as neutral territory by the Galactic Mediation Council. There is no Galactic Mediation Council, Dr. Velanara interjected. No such organization exists. Captain Chen smiled slightly. Not yet, but there will be. The certainty in her voice was unsettling. Most prisoners either pleaded for mercy or raged against their captors. This human displayed neither response. Tell us about your military capabilities, Zixtel demanded. How many ships does your species possess? What are your weapons, technologies? I can tell you what you'll discover anyway, Chen replied. We have a small fleet of maybe 200 vessels. Our weapons are primarily projectile-based, with some directed energy capabilities. We have no faster-than-light communication and rely on jump gates for interstellar travel. Dr. Velanara made notes on her pad. Everything the human said confirmed. Their initial assessment: this was a primitive species with limited capabilities. Your honesty is refreshing, Zixtel said. Most species attempt to exaggerate their capabilities when captured. Why would I lie about facts you can easily verify? Chen asked. You clearly have superior technology. You captured us without difficulty. I'm simply being practical. Over the following days, similar interrogations were conducted with the other. To humans, Lieutenant Rodriguez provided detailed information about human engineering capabilities, confirming their reliance on relatively simple mechanical systems. Ensign Kim, despite his youth, spoke knowledgeably about human tactics and training methods. What puzzled the Nexa was the consistency of their responses. Most species, when separated and interrogated, provided conflicting information as fear, and confusion took hold. These humans gave remarkably similar accounts, as if they had coordinated their responses beforehand. Dr. Velanara spent considerable time observing the humans' behavior in their cells. She noted several peculiarities that didn't fit standard patterns for captured beings. First, they seemed to communicate despite being in separate cells, not through any technology she could detect, but through a series of taps and scratches that appeared random but followed a consistent pattern. Second, They showed remarkable adaptability to their environment. Within days, they had learned to predict mealtimes, guard rotations, and facility routines with uncanny accuracy. Third, and most disturbing, they appeared to be studying their captors as much as they were being studied. She had caught each of them at different times, carefully observing guard movements, asking seemingly innocent questions about Nexoculture, and showing intense interest in the technology around them. Commander Dr. Vallenara reported during their daily briefing, "I believe we may need to reassess our initial evaluation of these humans." "In what way?" Zixtel asked. "They are not behaving like typical prisoners. They show no signs of psychological breakdown despite weeks of captivity. They appear to be gathering intelligence about our operations, and their biological responses to stress are unlike anything I have seen." She displayed her findings on the main screen. "Notice their cortisol levels. They should be elevated due to stress, but they have actually decreased over time. Their heart rates and brain activity suggest they are becoming more comfortable, not less. Perhaps they are simply adapting to captivity," suggested Ambassador Crethan, who had joined the briefing. "Some species are more resilient than others." "No," Dr. Vallenara said firmly. "This is not adaptation, this is preparation. They are learning everything they can about us, while revealing as little as possible about themselves." Commander Zixtel considered this information. "You believe they are intelligence operatives?" "I believe they are something we have not encountered before," she replied. "Their technology may be primitive, but their approach to gathering and processing information is sophisticated. They are not just answering our questions about their capabilities. They are studying how we ask questions, what we consider important, and how we think." To test this theory, Dr. Vallenara designed a series of experiments. She presented each human with seemingly simple puzzles and problems, observing not just their solutions, but their problem-solving approaches. The results were remarkable. Despite their claim to be ordinary military personnel, each human demonstrated cognitive abilities that suggested extensive training in multiple disciplines. Captain Chen showed deep understanding of psychology and social dynamics. Lieutenant Rodriguez displayed engineering knowledge that went far beyond simple mechanical systems. Ensign Kim, despite his youth, demonstrated tactical thinking that impressed even seasoned nexo-military analysts. More concerning was their ability to learn. When presented with new information about nexo-technology or culture, they absorbed it with remarkable efficiency. They asked follow-up questions that revealed they understood not just the information itself, but its implications and applications. Commander Dr. Vallenara said during an emergency briefing, "I believe we have made a significant error in our assessment. These humans are not the primitive species we initially thought. They are something far more dangerous. Asked if they are physically weak, technologically inferior, and completely at our mercy. They are physically different, technologically younger, and strategically patient," she corrected. "But they are learning everything about us, while we learn nothing meaningful about them. They have turned their captivity into a research opportunity." As if summoned by their discussion, an alert chimed through the facility. Captain Chen had requested a meeting with the facility commander when Zixtel entered the interrogation room. He found the human sitting calmly, her hands folded on the table. She looked up as he entered, and he noticed something different in her expression. The carefully neutral mask was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like sympathy. "Commander," she said, "I think it's time we had an honest conversation. We Have been having honest conversations, he replied, taking his seat across from her. No, she said, shaking her head. You have been having the conversation you wanted to have, the one where you are the advanced species studying the primitives. But that was never the real conversation. Something in her tone made Zixtel uneasy. What do you mean? Captain Chen leaned forward slightly. Commander, my species has been aware of the Nexa Empire for over 50 years. We have been studying you, learning about you, preparing for this moment. Did you really think our patrol ship stumbled into your territory by accident? The words hit Zixtel like a physical blow. You were claiming you came here deliberately. I am claiming that everything you think you know about humanity is wrong, she replied. You see weakness where there is strategy. You see primitive technology where there is purposeful misdirection. You see a species ripe for conquest, where there is a species that has been preparing for war since before your empire knew we existed. Dr. Velinara's voice came through the communication system. Commander, you need to see this immediately. On the screen that descended from the ceiling, star charts appeared showing the positions of various fleets. What Zixtel saw made his blood run cold. Human vessels, far more than the 200 Captain Chen had mentioned, were positioned throughout. The scepter, they had been hidden, waiting, watching. You lied about your capabilities, he said. I told you exactly what you needed to know to make the decisions we wanted you to make, she replied. Every species you have conquered before fought. You directly tried to match your strength with their own. We studied those conflicts. We learned from their mistakes. The screen changed to show technical specifications of human vessels. They were not the primitive craft the Nexa had assumed. They were sophisticated, designed specifically to counter Nexa technology. How long have you been preparing for this? Zixtel asked. Since the moment we learned of your existence, Captain Chen replied. We have studied every species you have conquered, every battle you have fought, every weakness you have shown. We have prepared for this war for decades. War, Zixtel stood abruptly. You would dare challenge the Nexa Empire. We would dare to defend ourselves, she replied calmly. And we would dare to offer you something your empire has never experienced before. What could you possibly offer us? Captain Chen smiled, and for the first time, Zixtel saw something genuinely frightening in her expression. A fair fight. The revelation, the alert klaxons echoed through the Nexa facility as Commander Zixtel rushed to the command center. The revelation from Captain Chen had shaken him, but he still held on to the belief that the Nexa Empire's superior technology and military might would prevail. As he entered the command center, the massive displays showed something that made his certainty crumble. Commander, his tactical officer reported, we are receiving distress signals from the Kepler-7 colony. They are under attack by human forces. Zixtel studied the tactical display. Kepler-7 was a recently established Nexa colony with minimal defenses. It should have been an easy target to protect, even from a more advanced force. The colony housed approximately 50,000 Nexa civilians and was defended by a standard garrison of 500 soldiers. Show me the battle, he commanded. The screen filled with real-time footage from the colony's defense systems. What Zixtel saw defied everything he thought he knew about human capabilities. The human attack had not begun with a massive assault or overwhelming firepower. Instead, it had started with what appeared to be a single, damaged human vessel requesting emergency assistance. The colony's administrators, following standard humanitarian protocols, had allowed the ship to land and had sent medical teams to assist the crew. That was when the real attack began. The damaged vessel had released a cloud of microscopic devices that interfered with Nexar communication systems, not destroying them, but subtly altering their frequencies so that orders became confused and coordination broke down. Within minutes, the entire colony's defense network was in chaos, but the psychological aspect of the attack was what truly impressed and terrified Zixtal. The humans had not attacked civilian targets. Instead, they had systematically isolated military installations, while broadcasting messages to the civilian population in perfect Nexar dialect. "Citizens of Kepler-7," the message said, "we are the Human Liberation Force. We have no quarrel with civilians. Remain in your homes and you will not be harmed. We seek only to neutralize military threats to our people." Dr. Velanara had joined Zixtal in the command center, her crystalline features reflecting the glow of the tactical displays. "Commander, this is not a random attack. This is a carefully orchestrated operation designed to minimize civilian casualties while achieving maximum psychological impact." "Psychological impact?" Zixtal asked. "They are demonstrating that they can strike at will anywhere in our territory, while maintaining moral superiority. They are not conquering, they are liberating. To the civilians, they appear as protectors rather than invaders." The display showed human soldiers moving through the colony with precision that spoke of extensive intelligence gathering. They knew exactly where every military installation was located, every security checkpoint, every command center. More disturbing, they seemed to know the personal details of individual Nexus soldiers. Sergeant Colvex, a human voice, said over the captured communication channels, "We know you have a family on Nexo Prime. We know you joined the military to provide for them. We have no desire to harm you. Stand down, and you will be transported safely to a neutral location." Many Nexus soldiers, confused by the communication breakdown and unnerved by the personal knowledge the humans displayed, began to surrender, not out of cowardice, but out of a growing realization that they were facing an enemy that knew more about them than they knew about themselves. "How do they know so much about our people?" Zixtal demanded. The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Chen's voice echoed through the command center's speakers. "Because we have been watching you for 50 years, Commander. Every soldier in your military, every administrator in your government, every scientist in your research facilities. We know your backgrounds, your families, your motivations. We know you better than you know yourselves." "How are you communicating with us?" Zixtal asked. "You are in a secured cell, am I?" Chun's voice carried a note of amusement. "Commander, I need to tell you something important. Something that will change how you think about this entire situation." The security monitors showed Captain Chen still in her cell, but now she was no longer alone. Lieutenant Rodriguez and Ensign Kim stood with her, despite being supposedly locked in separate cells. More concerning, they had somehow accessed the facility's communication systems. "This is impossible," Dr. Velanara said. "Our security systems are impenetrable." "To most species, yes," Chen replied. "But humans have a particular talent for finding weaknesses in systems that seem perfect. We have spent generations learning to overcome obstacles that should be insurmountable." The display changed to show the interior of the facility. Human soldiers were moving through corridors that should have been impossible to access. They moved with the confidence of people who had studied the facility's layout for years. "You see," Commander Chen continued, "we never intended to be your prisoners. We intended to be your students. For the past months, we have been learning everything about your technology, your psychology, your culture. We have been preparing for this moment." General Thompson appeared on the communication screen. He was an older human with silver hair and eyes that held the wisdom of decades of conflict. Behind him, Zixtal could see what appeared to be a sophisticated command center. "Commander Zixtal," General Thompson said, "I am General Robert Thompson of the United Earth Defense Force. I believe it is time for us to discuss the future of our relationship." "You are in no position to negotiate," Zixtal replied, though his confidence was wavering. "Am I not?" Thompson smiled. "Let me show you our position." The tactical display expanded to show the entire sector. What Zixtal saw made his foreheart sink. Human vessels were positioned throughout Nexa space, not just at Kepler-7. They had somehow infiltrated the entire sector without being detected. "This is not possible," Zixtal said. "Our sensors would have detected such a massive fleet movement." "Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect," Thompson replied. "For 50 years, we have been studying your technology. We know how your sensors work, what they look for, how they process information. We have learned to hide in the spaces between your perceptions." Dr. Velinara was studying the data streams with growing alarm. "Commander, these human vessels are not using any technology we recognize. They appear to be using some form of adaptive camouflage that adjusts to our sensor frequencies in real time." "Adaptive camouflage?" Zixtal asked. "It learns from our sensors and changes its signature to remain invisible," she explained. "It is not just advanced technology, it is technology that improves itself based on our attempts to detect it." Dr. James Walsh appeared on the screen next to General Thompson. He was a thin human with intelligent eyes and an expression of barely contained excitement. "Commander," Dr. Walsh said, "I am the lead scientist for the Human Adaptation Project. For the past 50 years, we have been studying your empire not to conquer it, but to understand it. We have learned about your culture, your technology, your psychology, but most importantly, we have learned about your weaknesses." "We have no weaknesses," Zixtal declared. "Every species has weaknesses," Walsh replied. "The Nexo weakness is that you assume your way of thinking is the only way of thinking. You assume that because you are physically stronger and technologically more advanced, you are superior. But strength and technology are not the same as intelligence and adaptability." The display showed detailed analyses of Nexa military tactics, psychology profiles of key commanders, and technological specifications of their most advanced weapons. The depth of human knowledge was staggering. "How did you gather this information?" Zixtal asked. "The same way we are gathering information right now," Captain Chen said as she and her companions entered the command center. The facility's most secure room had been breached without triggering a single alarm. "We observe, we learn, we adapt. It is what humans do." The Nexa guards moved to stop them, but Chen held up a hand. "I would not recommend that. My colleagues have spent the last months learning about your nervous system. They know exactly how to incapacitate you without permanent harm." Lieutenant Rodriguez stepped forward. "Commander, I am an engineer. For the past months, I have been studying your technology. I have learned how to override your systems, how to bypass your safeguards, how to turn your own security against you." Ensign Kim, despite his youth, spoke with the authority of someone far beyond his years. "Commander, I have been studying your tactical doctrines. I know how your military thinks, how you plan operations, how you respond to threats. I have been preparing countermeasures to every strategy in your playbook." "This is impossible," Zixtal said. 3 prisoners cannot overcome an entire facility. We are not 3 prisoners, Chen replied. We are 3 representatives of a species that has been preparing for this moment for decades. Every human captured by your empire has been a student, not a victim. Every interrogation has been a lesson, not a defeat. The screens around the command center began displaying messages from across the Nexa Empire. Human forces were revealing themselves throughout Nexa space, but they were not attacking. Instead, they were demonstrating their capability while offering alternatives to conflict. Citizens of the Nexa Empire, General Thompson's voice echoed through the facility. Humanity offers you a choice. You can continue to follow a path of conquest and domination, or you can join us in building something new. A galactic community, based on cooperation rather than subjugation. High Chancellor Mordok appeared on the emergency communication channel. The supreme leader of the Nexa Empire was a massive figure even by Nexa standards, with battle scars covering his obsidian skin and eyes that had seen 1,000 conflicts. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. How have primitives infiltrated our space? Chancellor, General Thompson replied, we are not primitives. We are a species that has learned to turn perceived weakness into strength. We have studied your empire for 50 years, learned from every species you have conquered, and prepared for this moment. You think to challenge the might of the Nexa Empire. Mordok's voice carried the fury of a born warrior. We think too. Offer you something better, Thompson replied. A future where strength is measured not by the ability to conquer, but by the ability to build. Where advancement comes not from subjugating others, but from learning from them. Dr. Walsh stepped forward. Chancellor, we have spent decades studying your empire. We know your history, your culture, your achievements. The Nexa are a remarkable people, but you have become trapped in a cycle of conquest that will ultimately destroy you. Destroy us. Mordok laughed. We are the most powerful empire in the galaxy. You are the most powerful empire in this sector, Walsh corrected. But there are other sectors, other empires, other threats. While you have been conquering primitive species, other civilizations have been advancing. You have grown strong, but not smart. Powerful, but not wise. The display showed star charts extending far beyond known space. In the distance, other empires moved and grew, some with technology that made even the Nexa look primitive. The universe is vast, Chancellor Thompson said, and it is dangerous. Humanity offers you an alliance. Not conquest, not subjugation, but partnership. Together, we can face the challenges that neither of us could overcome alone. Commander Zixtal stood in stunned silence as the full scope of the human plan became clear. They had not come to conquer the Nexa Empire. They had come to transform it. You have been planning this for 50 years, he said quietly. We have been preparing for this for 50 years, Chen corrected. But planning implies we knew exactly what would happen. We did not know if we would face conquest, destruction, or something else entirely. We prepared for all possibilities. And if we refuse your offer, Mordok asked, then you will face the consequences of your choices, Thompson replied. But those consequences will not come from us. They will come from your own actions. We have shown you that your empire is not invincible. Others will learn this lesson as well. The truth of the situation settled over the command center like a heavy blanket. The humans had not just defeated the Nexa Empire militarily. They had exposed its fundamental vulnerabilities and offered an alternative to the cycle of conquest that had defined Nexa civilization for millennia. What do you want from us? Zixtal asked. We want you to choose, Chen replied. Choose two. Grow beyond conquest. Choose to build rather than destroy. Choose to learn rather than dominate. Captain Chen looked around the command center, meeting the eyes of every Nexer present. Commander, your empire has spent thousands of years proving that you are the strongest. We are offering you the chance to prove that you are also the wisest. The choice lay before them. Continue the path of conquest and face an increasingly dangerous universe alone, or join with humanity in building something new, something that had never existed before in the galaxy. The age of simple conquest was over. The age of cooperation was about to begin. But first, the Nexer had to choose which future they wanted to create. Asterisk.